Hello, yellers. Welcome back to Why Am I Yelling? Musings from a middle-aged menopausal mom, the podcast where I say all the things you're screaming into your pillow at 11 o'clock at night, or while your family snores peacefully and you're still downstairs unloading the dishwasher. I'm your host, Krista Rizzo, and today we are talking about consideration. Say it with me. Consideration. Because apparently it has left the building. It packed its bags sometime around 2015, and it did not leave a forwarding address. And nobody seems to have noticed that it's gone. Not your kids, not some men in your life, and apparently not a certain group of male athletes who thought it would be a great idea to laugh it up with the con artist in chief while their female counterparts were standing by wondering what in the world was going on. We have a lot to unpack today, friends. So grab your coffee and I don't know what else you're doing. I'm not judging. And let's get into it. So let's start with what even is consideration. What does it mean to be considerate? At its most basic level, consideration means thinking about other people. It means pausing, even for just a second, and asking yourself, how might my actions affect the people around me? That's it. That's the whole thing. It is not complicated. And yet, we live in a world, and I would argue many of us live in homes where consideration has become optional, where it's treated like some kind of bonus feature rather than a basic expectation of being a human being in a relationship with another human being or other human beings, not just one, all of them. I want to be really clear before we would dive in though, right? This is not a man bashing episode. It isn't even a kids bashing episode, though God knows they will try my patience at any turn. This is an episode about value, a deeply important, deeply underrated value. And that value is this. Consideration is not a nicety. It is not a personality trait that some people have and some people don't. It's not optional, right? It's a sign of respect. Full stop. When you are considerate of someone, you're saying, I see you. I recognize that you exist, that you have feelings, that your time and energy and presence matter. And when you are inconsiderate, you're saying the opposite, whether you mean to or not. That's what makes it sting so much, because most of the people in our lives who are inconsiderate aren't trying to be cruel. They're just not thinking. They're operating on autopilot. They're so focused on themselves, their comfort, their needs, their agenda, that they simply haven't stopped to consider the impact on the people right next to them. And we, the moms, the wives, the women who hold everything together, we feel it every single time. So today we're going to talk about 3 different situations where consideration went missing or it goes missing. One is the most recent big public moment that probably made you throw something at the TV. One is so relatable, it's basically a documentary. And one might make you shed a tear. You have been warned. So we're going to start with the hockey incident. When the room reads the room wrong is what I'm calling this. And that's kind of what sparked this episode for me, although it's been on my list of things to talk about for a little while. And I kind of keep letting it drop down the list because other stuff keeps popping up. But this kind of felt like an opportune time to have this conversation. So by now, you know about the accomplishments of the United States hockey teams, both men and women, winning gold medals in Olympic overtime games, both of them. A huge accomplishment worthy of all the celebration. And I wish that's where this story ended, right? 2 highly competitive teams filled with highly accomplished athletes celebrating together their wins. But sadly, that's not the highlight. Because at the celebration of the men's win, The clown in chief called them to glorify their win and downplay or flat out degrade the women's win. And while he was spewing what some people referred stupidly to as quote unquote locker room talk, the boys in the locker room, who just happened to be grown men with wives and daughters and mothers and sisters, and very importantly, in this specific scenario, female hockey player peers who had just accomplished the same thing as the boys did. And they laughed along with the guy on the phone. It was so cringe, and it completely took the wind out of women and men's sails across the world. Now, look, you know where I stand on the politics of all of this, but this is not where I'm going with it. I want to talk about the optics, the consideration or lack thereof of that moment. Because here's the thing. You're standing in a room with your teammates, celebrating the same win as your colleagues. The women who train just as hard as you, who sacrificed just as much or more as you did, who won gold just like you did. And you are choosing in that moment to perform camaraderie with someone who you know has a reputation for degrading, harassing, and assaulting women. Now, there is a possibility that some of them felt uncomfortable or they didn't know how to respond other than laughing and playing along, but they are all grown men who have the capacity to choose, and they chose to make the women feel invisible, to feel less than. And that's not being a good teammate, and it's definitely not exercising good sportsmanship. Here, on the other hand, is what consideration could have looked like. Accepting the congratulations and then cutting the felon off. Like, thanks, Mr. President. We appreciate it. Got to go celebrate with the team now. Or even better, someone could have said, the women work just as hard as we do, and they deserve congratulations on behalf of the country as well. Shut it down. Yes, shut it down, even if you're shutting down the president. Because spoiler alert, he works for you. That's it. You guys, that's consideration. It doesn't mean you can't have your moment. It doesn't mean you have to agree with everything your teammates believe. It means you look up from your own experience long enough to register that there are other people here too. And I think this is something that speaks to a much broader issue, not just in this hockey situation, not just in sports, but in places, in workplaces, and in families, and in relationships everywhere. When you share a space with someone, when you are on the same team, literal or figurative, their dignity is connected to yours. The way you show up affects how they feel. And if you're so caught up in your own performance, your own moment, your own comfort that you can't stop to think about the people next to you, that, yellers, is a failure of consideration. Now, the women's team, and I want to say this out loud, the women's team has handled this with class. They've been professional. They have not made any disparaging comments or statements against their male counterparts. They have smartly declined an invitation to the White House, and they went and had dinner with Stanley Tucci in Milan instead, which is mwah, chef's kiss. But aside from that, that is what women do. We absorb the awkward. We manage the uncomfortable. We have been conditioned to smile through the thing that just quietly broke something in us. And then we go home and we tell our friends about it, or we go on podcasts to yell about it. So here's my ask to the men, not just the hockey players, but all the men listening right now. Start noticing. Start asking. When you're in a room with someone, look up from your own experience long enough to see theirs. That is not weakness, my friends. That is not some woke political statement. That is just being a decent human being. Consideration is a sign of respect, and your teammates, whoever they are, deserve it. So let's move on from that scenario to the mom report. And let's bring it home, literally. Because as wild as that hockey moment was, I promise you, the thing that's causing the most sustained low-grade rage in the lives of moms everywhere is not happening at the White House. Although, the balance shifts on any given day, I'm sure. But it's happening in our kitchens, in our hallways, our living rooms, on our stairs. I mean, the stairs, right? Am I right? The stairs. All the shit on the stairs. Let's just paint a hypothetical picture. Close your eyes. It's 7:45 in the morning. You're already running late. You've made lunches. You've reminded 3 people to brush their teeth. You've located a missing shoe. You have signed a permission slip that was apparently due yesterday, and you are hauling yourself up or down the stairs with your arms full of things that need to go away, in the car, someplace else. And there, on step 4, is a backpack. On step 7, I don't know, a lacrosse stick. On step 9, someone's hoodie that has apparently decided to make the staircase its permanent home. And you know that you mentioned these items to be picked up just yesterday and the day before that and a Tuesday 2 months ago. And yet here you are navigating an obstacle course that is literally in your own home. Now, in isolation, a backpack on a step is not a big deal. I know that. I genuinely know that. But here's the thing. It's never just a backpack, is it? It's the backpack and the dishes left next to, but not in the sink, just getting hard and crusty. It's so gross. And the towel on the floor in the bathroom that is literally 6 inches from the towel hook. And the empty roll of toilet paper that someone did not replace. And the snack wrappers strewn all over the beanbag. And the milk that got put back in the fridge with 1 sip left in it, as if that is thoughtfulness and kindness. That's lazy. It's the accumulation. And what the accumulation says is this. I don't think about how my actions affect you. I act and then I move on. And I trust that somehow the world will reset itself and continue to spin on its axis. I do not consider that the person resetting the world, i.e. my life, my home, the home that I share with my family, is an actual person. A tired, overstretched, love-giving person who also has a life and a body and a brain and a finite amount of energy. It's your mother. And it's not just about us kids, by the way. I know some of you are nodding and thinking about your precious kiddos and saying, oh my gosh, I'm totally feeling this. And I know some of you are nodding and thinking about your spouse or your partner. And we're going to get to that one in a minute. But for now, let's talk about our kids, because I think sometimes we forget, or they forget, that we are people. Not just the person who makes sure the house runs. Not just the person who knows where everything is. An actual living, breathing, functioning human person. And one of the most powerful things we can do as parents, one of the most underrated parenting tools we have, is to teach consideration. Not just pick up your stuff because I said so, but pick up your stuff because when you leave it, someone else has to deal with it. And that person, inevitably, 99.99999% of the time, is me. And you know what? I matter. And so does my time, and so does my energy. Teach them that consideration is a sign of respect. That when you walk through a house and you leave it worse than you found it, you are communicating something, whether you mean to or not, about how much you value the people who live there with you. I'm going to go back to my childhood for a minute, right? Because I know a mom. She was our neighbor when we were growing up in Westchester. They had 7 kids in their family. And she went on strike. And she came down. They lived a few houses away from us. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom and like worked part-time and stuff at that time in our lives. And so she came down to our house and just plopped down. My mom was home and plopped down in one of our kitchen chairs to have a cup of coffee with my mother, which was not unusual, by the way. But she was having a cup of coffee with my mom, and she said, "I'm done. I'm on strike. They can all figure it out themselves." And she stayed at my parents' house, at my house, with my mom all day. My mom made lunch. She made dinner. Mrs. Murphy hung out and had dinner with us. And her kids came in looking for her throughout the day. And she kept saying, "I'm on strike. Figure it out." And her husband came over and she said to him, "I'm on strike. Figure it out." Now, eventually she did go home. And I'm sure that there was some, adjustments made, right? Because everybody kind of got a little bit of a wake-up call. And I'm also sure that it went back to the way it was at some point, and there was another strike to be had, because we've all been there. We all want to go on strike sometimes. But she made a statement, right? She made a statement by saying, "I'm not the only one who can do this. I'm not the only one who knows how to put the laundry away or fold the laundry or pick up the socks that are left in the middle of the living room floor or wash a dish or whatever your list is at your house." Because I know you have one. We all have a list. In my house, it's the wrappers and the cups. Pick up the wrappers and bring your cups upstairs. Like, enough is enough, right? Here's what I want every kid listening, or every kid whose parent is going to share this episode with them, to understand. Your mom is not the house immune system. She's not a background process running invisibly to keep everything functioning. She is a human being who notices everything you don't, who carries a mental weight that you can't even see, who deserves at minimum the consideration of picking up your stuff. That is the floor. That is the bare minimum. And honestly, children, you can do better than the floor. Pick up your stuff. Be considerate. Surprise her by emptying the dishwasher tomorrow. Surprise her by putting away your laundry. Maybe pick up the backpack that's on the stairs and put it away. I know you know. I know you know. So aside from the kids, and aside from, our other relationships in our lives that include our sports teams and, our friends and all the people that we should be considerate to and for, coworkers, things like that. This one is also close to home, right? I want to talk about us, the wives, the moms, the partners, the women who have built their lives alongside someone, who have shown up every day, who have given and given and given, and who have started to wonder if anyone notices. Because there's a specific kind of loneliness that comes from being alone. But there's also a specific kind of loneliness that comes not from being alone, but from being unseen. From being in a room with the person who is supposed to know you best in the world and feeling invisible next to them or around them. And I don't think most partners who do this are bad people. It's happened to all of us. I don't think they wake up in the morning and decide to make their wife feel like wallpaper. I don't think they're just living their life. I think they're just living their lives on autopilot, assuming that because she's there, she's fine. Because she's always there. Because she's always fine. Quote unquote fine. And meanwhile, she is doing the math. She's counting the days since he asked how she was, like really asked, not just passing, in the how was your day while looking at his phone as he walks by. She's noticing that he remembered the time his fantasy football team needed to get organized. But he forgot that she had a doctor's appointment just yesterday. She's tracking the ratio of times she's asked about his needs versus the times he's asked about hers. And she's coming up short every single time. She's coming up short. Now, I want to say something that might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. Sometimes we, and when I say we, I mean the wives, the moms, the women, the partners, the female partners, or the partners in the relationship, contribute to our own invisibility. Not because it's our fault. It is emphatically not our fault, but because we are so good at managing everything. We are competent and reliable, so much so that we accidentally train the people around us to take us for granted. Think about that for a minute. We stop asking for what we need because we're tired of asking. We stop expressing how we feel because the last time we did, it turned into a whole thing. We absorb and adjust and accommodate until the person across from us has no idea there's even a problem. And then we explode at something small and they look at us confused because from where they're standing, everything was fine. Which is maddening. It is genuinely maddening. And yet, here's what I want to say to the women, the wives, the moms. You deserve to be seen. You deserve a partner who notices, who asks, who remembers, who, even when life is busy and chaotic and full, makes you feel like you are a priority and not an appliance. And here's what I want to say to the partners who might be listening, or whose partners might send them this episode with a very pointed, just thought you might find this interesting text. Consideration in a relationship doesn't have to be grand gestures. It does not require flowers or a weekend getaway, although, I wouldn't be complaining about that. Consideration looks like this. It looks like remembering something she mentioned last week and asking about it. It looks like noticing she seems tired and saying, hey, I got dinner tonight. It looks like putting your phone down when she's talking to you. Actually down, face down, not just dimmed. It looks like saying thank you for the things she actually does every day that you have stopped noticing. It looks like asking, what do you need? And then actually listening to the answer. Because here's the thing, and I want you to hear this. When you are considerate of your partner, you are not doing them a favor. You are meeting a basic requirement. Basic. Of being in a loving, functioning relationship. You are saying, through your actions, you matter to me. I see you. I am grateful you are here. And when you fail to do that, day after day and week after week, what she hears, even if you never intended it, is the opposite. Consideration is a sign of respect. And she has earned it a gazillion times over. If any of this is hitting close to home today, whether you are the one who is feeling unseen or whether you're the one who is hearing yourself in some of what I have described, I hope it's a moment of clarity rather than of shame. I don't want to make you feel bad because this is literally life. This is every single day. When I am coaching people in business, in life, talking to my friends, talking to people. This is a constant topic of, the kids left the stuff on the thing. My whatever, right? But it's never too late to start being considerate. It's never too late to look up from your own life long enough to really see the person standing right next to you. And I think that's an important thing to pay attention to. So, we have covered a lot of ground today, yellers. We talked about hockey players who chose to belittle their teammates. We talked about the backpack on the stairs, which if it happens to be your backpack, you know who you are. Move it. And we talked about the invisible wife, the woman who's holding the whole world together and wondering if anybody notices. And the thread connecting all of this is consideration. Consideration is not soft. It is not a weakness. It is not some optional personality add-on that some people are born with and others just aren't. Consideration is an actual skill. It is practice. It is a daily, active, intentional choice to look beyond our own experience and ask, how are the people around me doing? How are my actions affecting them? What do they need that I might be able to give them? And when you practice it, say that 10 times fast. When you practice it, you know what happens? People feel respected. They feel seen. They feel like they matter, which, by the way, they do. They feel less alone, less invisible, less like they are screaming, yelling into the void. Which, for the record, is partly why I started coaching and this podcast. So here's my challenge to everyone listening this week to this episode. And yes, I mean everyone, including the kids you're going to make listen to this in the car. Pick one person in your life, just one. And for the next week, 7 days, practice being intentionally considerate to them. Notice what they carry. Notice what they do. Say thank you when you would normally not say anything. Ask how they are and wait for the real answer. Put your stuff away before they have to ask. It won't fix everything, that I know, but it will start something. It will plant a seed, and sometimes that's all it takes. One moment of truly being seen to remind someone that they matter. Because they do, you do, and we all do. All right, that's enough for one episode. I have to go run some errands anyway. Thank you so much for listening, Yellers. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone you know who you know needs to hear it. Or share it with someone who needs to hear it for them, if you know what I mean. Leave a review or a comment or a DM and tell me how you are going to be more considerate and you are going to remind others to be more considerate. This is a teaching exercise. We're all teaching here. Let's keep the conversation going. Tag us on socials, do all the things, share this out with everybody you know, post it for me. I really appreciate it. But until next time, be considerate. Put your stuff away. And if you're feeling invisible, trust me, I see you. Take care of yourselves, everybody. I love you. Mwah.